How are y'all today? My name is John Bush. I'm Executive Director of Texans for Accountable Government. We've been working on the fusion centers for quite some time now. I actually just got back from an 8-state tour where I visited 6 different fusion centers in the states. We went through Arizona and managed to have an hour-and-a-half interview with their director of their fusion center. She wasn't the director, actually, she was the site overseer. She informed us that they run the name of protest and rally organizers through their fusion center before they allow them to go on. We also went to New Mexico. That fusion center was actually on a military base, so we weren't even granted access to deliver a open records request, which was kind of disheartening. But we did go through Oklahoma, and last time somebody on the commission asked me to find an example of a good fusion center. I said it's going to be difficult, but we actually found one. The Oklahoma Fusion Center was rather open with us. They invited us into the fusion center, gave us a tour, and even allowed us to video record within the premises. And they were open with everything. There's a lot of tools that they aren't utilizing because of their questionable constitutional nature. So there are some good fusion centers out there, and again, we have the opportunity as an awesome community to come together with law enforcement, with elected representatives, and with the community. Most importantly, because this is it's supposed to be benefiting the community, in order to ensure that the Austin Regional Intelligence Center is that fusion center. But having said that, while the efforts have been admirable, I still don't believe that we're going far enough. And to be frank, this meeting here has been rather disheartening. I know that everybody has their hands full with all sorts of different business and a lot of different activity, and things are happening daily, and we're trying to juggle all sorts of different agencies and departments. But the speed that this is going through is rather frightening when you take into account the potential for abuse that exists within these fusion centers that we have seen in the past. And I know that the Chief Carter and Chief Acevedo recognize those problems. However, I do believe that this fusion center privacy policy fails to address many of them. The one that I'd like to point out today is the suspicious activity reports. This is the findings and recommendations of suspicious activity reports from the Global Justice Sharing Initiative, which is the Department of Justice guidelines for fusion centers. And what they recommend is for the entire country to have the standards of the Los Angeles Police Department in collecting their suspicious activity reports. And I do think this is something that's going to be starting to happen that's different from what the APD practices are right now. And I just want to point out how many times I've carried out an action that would trigger a police officer to fill out a suspicious activity report on me in my daily activism and trying to gain a better understanding of the police state and surveillance state that we see growing up around us. Here's the suspicious activity reports, Los Angeles Police Department special order, and these are when they would require their officers to fill one out. When somebody appears to engage in counter surveillance efforts, like I said before, I drove up to the New Mexico Fusion Center that's on a military base, and we went through a checkpoint and ended up telling us to turn away. That would trigger a suspicious activity report. They could think that we are pre-operational planning. When somebody engages security personnel in questions, that too would trigger a suspicious activity report. We do that all the time when we're asking what something specifically is recording. The list goes on, but I think that it's absolutely crucial that we do allow amendments for this privacy policy, and I think it would be absurd to not have the privacy policy first go through the Public Safety Commission in order to be approved of. Not to mention the participating agencies in the surrounding cities, while their law enforcement officials are participating, we have minimal participation in the city of Austin. The citizens from those other cities are not even participating at all, and many of them are probably not even aware of it. So I think that, judging by the fact that 15 people have consistently showed up to every single one of these public safety commissions specifically for this fusion center process, I think that says a lot about the community involvement and our concern. So we want to see the process slow down entirely, and we would like to see the privacy policy go through the Public Safety Commission before it's even presented for approval to the City Council, which at the current point it's not going to be. I think that's absolutely necessary. So if we're to have legislative oversight.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
Well, thank you so much. So, listening to him, it seems we are all on the same page when it comes to the fusion center. It's all about how we use the data. So, my next question to you is: do we have some action plan where we can sit and come up with some kind of consensus as what this privacy policy should look like, so we can move this process forward?
I think one is that we forwarded the privacy policy draft up about a week ago to the urban area working group, and then also to, and I believe we forwarded it to each of the city council members as well. I think absolutely, we want to have that ongoing dialogue. There's nothing here that suggests that we don't want to do that. I'll tell you, I've heard several different things here. with all due respect to John and the others that are here, is that in some ways I think we're on the same page. It may not exactly seem that way, but I heard about, I think from the first speaker was talking about the issue of that there's no criminal predicate, there's no criminal nexus, but there's information in the A-rate. Well, if it's not clear in our policy, then we need to strengthen the language that there has to be, and I think that it's there. I think that it's there, but we'll double check. We'll have the people look at it. On criminal nexus, it's got to be part of that system. That's in there. We're not collecting information if there's no criminal nexus, number one. So if it's just general information, and for us, and I think John knows this as well, is that the issue, somebody mentioned the issue about protesters, collecting data on protesters. Well, we have a long history in Austin of, at the Austin Police Department, in the past several years of going out of our way to make sure that we, respect people's First Amendment rights. In other words, so we don't, it is not an issue about protests or anything like that. So that, number one, is we wouldn't be checking on something because we want to have a protest. So that's I want to just clarify that. If the language is not clear in the privacy policy about constitutional protections, guaranteed, the right to peacefully assemble, the right to redress a government by public assembly, that is something that we strongly are committed to doing. We want to make sure that language is in there, and if for some reason it's not, then we would want to clarify that if that's a problem. But those are the kind of things that I hear. I also heard the issue about sustainability. Those are really good questions, and I think those are the kind of things that we really want the opportunity to talk about, the issues of sustainability. The way this system is being built is the grant money is there to start the center, build it, start it up, but the primary, other than a dedicated one analyst from Austin, most of the personnel are existing crime analysts. In other words, that's the kind of people we're going to be putting, the ones that are actually looking at criminal information right now, is they're going to be working with the folks that are in that center so that we can actually combat crime on a daily basis. That's the whole intent there. And Commissioner, I think, I'd be happy to talk more about this, and I can appreciate the concerns. We really want to address those because we're not trying to establish a new COINTELPRO. We're very familiar what that is, and that is involving information that has no criminal nexus. That's First Amendment activity. That information, it has no business being in any criminal intelligence system. So that's not what we're looking at either. To say that law enforcement hasn't learned from the mistakes of its own history, especially at APD, we really want to do what we can to address those and make sure that those kinds of things don't happen. And I'm happy to continue the conversation or share whatever information. And I can bring the privacy policy, or we'll resend it or send it to the commission. We'll bring you the MOU before, we can maybe send that out. We can legally do that, send that out to you before the next Public Safety Commission.
Good. One more question, and then Mr. Bigger.